All right, guys, so there's still like 1,000 theories out there as to what exactly went down in Venezuela and how the U.S. pulled off the kidnapping of Maduro. And I'm about to break down a very detailed conspiracy for you in just a second. But before I get to that, let's go with something that sounds like a conspiracy, but it actually isn't. Like, this is as real as a heart attack, y'all. So take a look at this. Anna Bauer says, hours before Maduro's first court appearance on federal criminal charges, a senior Justice Department official amplified a post speculating that the Venezuelan dictator would try to plead to a lesser charge by proffering evidence that the 2020 U.S. election was stolen. So, now, by the way, he pled not guilty on all charges, right? And he has a legit defense attorney, I should point out. I think it was Assange's defense attorney. The guy's the real deal, right? Multiple people within the Trump government are saying that they are trying to get Maduro on the record in court officially to say, oh yeah, I personally was involved in flipping votes and stealing the election for Joe Biden in 2020. And that if he says that for Trump, then they'll go easier on him. They'll go lighter on him. You know what it reminds me of? The Ghislaine Maxwell thing, where Trump tried to get Ghislaine Maxwell to clear his name and already sent her to like a resort-style non-prison prison where she gets a fucking puppy and gets to do hot yoga and gets to play Parcheesi and gets to like come and go as she pleases. So he let her go to like a resort non-prison prison in exchange for her saying, I never saw Trump do anything wrong, right? And everybody knows, oh, well, obviously you just made a deal and she's lying for you. Like, that's the point. Everybody would know that Maduro would be lying for you in order to get off easier. Like, how does he think this fools anybody? And look, Maduro, a good way of thinking of him, as Crystal told me the other day, is like, he's a Trumpian figure in his own respect. He'd do whatever to save his ass. He would fucking lie. The idea that Venezuela stole the 2020 election for Joe Biden is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, and they're actually working on trying to get him to say that publicly. And then, by the way, watch MAGA would turn on a dime and go, that Maduro guy, at least he's honest, man. He tells the truth as he lies in front of the world. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I don't doubt that's actually happening. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I guarantee you the feds are trying to get him to say that to go lighter on him. But having said that, he also might have been convinced by his lawyer that, like, bro, you got nothing to worry about. You're going to get off here. They got dick on you. So who knows if he'll actually play ball. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does play ball. But now, let me show you guys this. So Bad Empanada did a video breaking down his theory about what happened here in Venezuela. And to be fair, this was in like the immediate aftermath of it, so I don't know if he would update or change his opinion now, but it's very interesting overall, so let's listen and we'll break it down here.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of the footage that's been circulating of American helicopters just sort of flying around Caracas with free rein, with very little return fire against them, barely even any small arms fire being heard in the background. It all kind of reeks, and it especially reeks because of something that Trump said. Trump said that the vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, is willing to work with the US. Trump said that she had expressed her willingness to do whatever the US asks. Trump also said regarding the opposition, the Venezuelan opposition, who up until now he seemed to have been supporting, that he's basically not going to make them leaders. He said about Maria Corina Machado, the recent Nobel Prize winner, by the way, that it would be very tough for her to be the leader, and that he hasn't spoken to her, and that though she's a very nice woman, she doesn't have the support within or the respect of the country.
Allegedly, there's also reporting that Trump was furious that she accepted that Nobel Peace Prize, and that was one of the reasons why he's like, I'm not going to let her run the country, that it's literal petty personal grievance. The reason I bring that up is because he has a track record of petty personal grievance. But having said that, it could also be this, right? It could also be that there is some sort of a deal either with the VP or somebody else within the country.
Extremely fishy, isn't it? What the fuck happened here? There's also videos that have come out, for example, of damage in Venezuela after these strikes at some of the military bases that were attacked. And it almost looks token. It almost doesn't look that serious. Like I saw an article in the Venezuelan newspaper El Nacional, which now I, of course, can't find, that said that in at least some of the bases that were attacked, perhaps all of them, don't really know, obviously I'm speculating here, as I said, this is all preliminary, there were almost no personnel because the troops had been sent home for the New Year's festivities. That seems suspicious, right? If we look at this video here from Venezuelan State TV, they sent a car out to assess the damage at one of the military barracks that had been attacked.
Muy atentos porque les vamos a mostrar las imágenes del punto donde ocurrió el ataque. Aquí. Vamos a parar el vehículo.
We have a military base with some bombed out buses, civilian looking buses too. These must be like transports to get the troops to and from work or something. There is one single bombed out APC that looks like it was parked. Maybe not. I don't know. You guys who are more military minded can tell me if this looks like any of this stuff was in action or not.
Las imágenes del ataque. Actualmente las reacciones internacionales son de completo agravio y estupor. Una unidad que
So we have some buses with destroyed windows, a bombed out APC, cars right next to these buses that seem to be in perfect condition, like that car right there on the right of the screen. The windows were destroyed, probably from the shockwave of the explosions, but the building wasn't actually directly hit.
fue destruida, en este caso un autobús rojo.
This bus looks like it was more substantially hit.
Tenemos otra unidad que también fue destruida.
These are just buses.
Podemos ver la reja. Esto que ustedes ven aquí son las esquirlas, producto de la deflagración de los explosivos. Allá inclusive tenemos un poste que fue arrancado de cuajo, precisamente por este fenómeno que les estamos comentando de las esquirlas de los explosivos que fueron utilizados en la mañana. Hay cuerpos de seguridad que están presentes. Un poco más atrás tenemos funcionarios militares que nos están haciendo señas. Obviamente ellos están...
It looks like there are two people in this base who this guy is able to see.
Están custodiando el perímetro, están haciendo su trabajo si se quiere. Pero bueno, lo que podemos reportar es esto. Estamos ofreciendo en vivo y en directo las imágenes de lo que fue el ataque.
There are weirdly very little images of damage like this that have come out so far. You're probably going to be seeing more of them throughout the day, maybe tomorrow. There is, from what I've been able to find, zero assessment of the casualties, anything like that. I have no idea how many people died, no idea how many civilians died. The only comment that I've seen on this came from Delcy Rodriguez, where she said in a statement that civilians and military members have died, without giving a number, without giving any real concrete information. But this was quite a while ago now. This was like 7-8 hours ago. Additionally, the only video that I have been able to find, again, I could be wrong here, the only clips that I've seen of Venezuelan troops or any sort of Venezuelan military presence were not actually going towards the fight with the Americans or anything. They were all just doing crowd control on Venezuelans. Like I saw one clip, this one right here, which is the only one that I've seen of Venezuelan troops. There's also another one of a random APC going through the street very slowly. It's not even worth showing. And they are just like, they just seem to be telling random civilians to go inside. Like they stop this person on a motorcycle and then just seem to leave them there.
Mira. Mira. Ay, papi, también chorreado.
They just seem to be stopping civilians and telling them to fucking go home or something. They seem to be more directed at getting people to seek shelter than actually fighting the Americans. Like, this is a crowd control operation. This isn't a military resistance.
Mira.
Yeah, they just tell the guy on the motorcycle, get the fuck out of here, and he goes. They tell the cars to get out of there, and they go.
Bajando a la gente. Mira. Mira, parando el carro. Bueno, me imagino que están defendiendo la posición, pero no les va a durar mucho. No, van a ir por ellos, Mira esto.
Now, there's something very fishy about all of this, okay? Something doesn't add up. Even if the US had literally perfectly managed to airstrike all of Venezuela's air defenses. Now, I'm not going to say Venezuela had a strong military or has a strong military or had strong air defense, because it doesn't. Venezuela's a poor South American country. South American countries already don't have strong militaries. That's because pretty much none of them expect any significant war. The only significant war that ever happens in South America is like rebel groups fighting against the government. And that's not the same thing as an actual conventional invasion by a major world power. So the Venezuelan military obviously was going to be completely unequipped and ill-prepared to actually fight against an invasion of a country that can deploy more planes and helicopters against it than it has any sorts of military vehicles total. Nonetheless, it really does seem like there was practically zero resistance. And there was practically zero resistance in such a coordinated way that it's very fishy. Almost like a stand-down order was given. Almost like this might have been a show of some sort, especially in light of Trump just being so willing to work with the vice president and seemingly being happy to keep the current government in power just without Maduro. And we have to consider this in light of reports that were coming out a month or two ago that Maduro was offering to leave for exile in Cuba or some other country on the condition that Vice President Delcy Rodriguez be allowed to take power and that the US not invade. So in light of that, I think there could be a real possibility here, even though it sounds insane, that all of this was agreed upon beforehand. Because the outcome of this appears to be Delcy Rodriguez running a government that complies with Trump's demand to give Venezuelan oil to the USA, and him getting his win over Maduro, being allowed to just take him and have a show trial where he gets convicted of a bunch of shit that he never did, along with a military operation that gets to be framed as super successful, which Americans are going to support because, let's be real, most of them are uncritical imperialist dumbasses who are easily swayed by this sort of shit. It's all just too perfect, right? Like, not a single American loss, not one dead American.
We do have some updates, though. It appears like, last I read, there were 7 that were injured. 2 of them are still being treated. So we don't know, right? Originally, they lied about it and act like there were like minor injuries to like a handful of them. Then the number was up to 7. Now we hear 2 are still being treated. It's possible that, maybe one of them passes away or the injuries are really, really bad. And when he made this video, he didn't have any casualty numbers, but I read 40, then they upped it to 80. Then we saw, one of the casualties was a 45-year-old single mother trying to protect her kid. And another one was an 80-year-old grandma that was killed. So since then, there have been casualties that came out. So I don't know. A lot of this stuff is contradictory. Like, he's making a decent case here that there was some sort of deal going on. But at the same time, some of the stuff doesn't add up, because even if there was a deal with the VP, Delcy Rodriguez, well, you're telling me there's nobody in the military that was loyal to the revolution that would, sniff out that she betrayed the country and then they wouldn't move on her, right? So I don't know. It seems like, but I agree that a lot of this is too fishy. And I think that his theory would, I think, be nearly validated if Maduro comes out and says, I helped Biden steal the election from Trump, and then he basically gets a light slap on the wrist. Then to me, that would say, oh yeah, all this was planned from the beginning, and they made it look like it was a kidnapping. It wasn't even really a kidnapping. They could have lied about the casualties and stuff like that. But I don't know. The other thing is, you take it at face value, and their plan was kidnap Maduro and then try to effectively coerce and extort the country into bending the knee. But Delcy Rodriguez is actually still down for the struggle. And so she's not bending, and then we're right back to square one. We're like, you replace the Maduro regime with basically the Maduro regime, right? I don't know, but he's making an interesting case.
Very little resistance. Trump weirdly being very nice towards the remnants of Maduro's government. They didn't attack anyone else in Maduro's government. They didn't kill the defense minister. They didn't kill the VP. They didn't kill the interior minister. They didn't do anything to them. They just flew in straight from Maduro, attacked what seems to have been largely empty military bases, did some serious damage to some of them, and token damage to others, as we saw in that video that I showed earlier, and got Maduro out with basically zero real resistance. Perhaps his own presidential guards fired on American troops.
Which, by the way, they say that he was surrounded by Cuban security officials, like his Secret Service are all Cuban. And I saw Vosh make this point, and I thought it was an interesting point. He said, no, that they're just doing the Cuban question, because their next target is to take out the Cuban government. And so instead, you've heard of the Jewish question. The Cuban question is like, oh, the Cubans are behind all of the bad, evil, nefarious stuff happening in South America. And so therefore, the fact that he was protected by nothing but Cubans proves they're the real power down there, and they're the ones we actually have to take out. That's possible.
Probably the only ones who really did anything, and then he was taken. So, I don't know, this just reeks. It reeks, especially with Trump seemingly abandoning the Venezuelan opposition all of a sudden. It really just seems like that this was like, or might have been either a betrayal by Delcy Rodriguez and the rest of the Venezuelan government of Maduro, or Maduro agreed to this in exchange for the US not invading Venezuela. And most of the Venezuelan military was simply stood down. The military installations were largely empty of troops under the excuse of there being, New Year's leave or whatever. And it is all an extremely bizarre situation. Nonetheless, if you're American, you should have been doing stuff about this whole fucking time, right? I made a video like a month ago saying they're threatening to invade Venezuela, even if, it's not serious, even if they're just bluffing, you still have to get out and protest.
Totally. I completely agree with that. Look, I don't know. You tell me. The theory seems slightly undermined by the fact, like, if it's true that 40 or 80 people died, if it's true that 7 Americans were injured, including 2 that are seriously injured, if that's true, I do feel like it undermines the theory. But it's also possible there is a deal. They made a deal, and on the way out, fucking Trump and Secretary of War Crimes Pete Kegsbreath, they were like, kill some people on the way out. We want to actually be macho men and tough guys. I could also see that. They agreed to no casualties. They agreed to all that stuff, and just as an extra fuck you, they decided, nah, we're gonna shoot some shit on the way out and actually kill some people on the way out. Because these people, they have no fucking scruples whatsoever. There's no morality. That's why they murdered 100 fishermen in the Caribbean, bombing over 30 boats. I mean, they don't give a fuck about these people. They don't even count them as people, right? So, I don't know. You tell me. At this moment, it's absolutely possible there was a deal with the VP. It's also possible it wasn't a deal with the VP, it was a deal with the military, right? It's possible it was a deal. It's possible it was a deal with all of them, like they were all on the same page, from Maduro all the way down to the military. That's all possible. And it's also possible there is no deal, and they decided they successfully pulled off this mission to capture Maduro, but now, you know, the deal, it all falls apart anyway because Maduro is replaced with a Maduro government, and they're trying to coerce and extort them to start letting us steal the oil, and they still say no, and they still stand up against it. In which case, what do you do then? Do they just continue to, you know, choke the country out, not allowing any oil, not allowing anything in or out? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But no matter how you slice it or dice it, it's completely illegal under U.S. law and international law. It's a total fucking crime. We're in no position. I mean, the fact that we're run by the fucking Epstein class, Epstein's best friend is going to enforce law around the world, and he's going to be the arbiter of that which is moral. Like, he's a fucking fredophile rapist. Like, what are we talking about here? It's absurd. And so, I don't know what's at the heart of this, but his theory, it does seem somewhat plausible to me. Let me know what you guys think.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.